So I have a bunch of questions, and we're just gonna go through them, and it'll be a very easy interview, just like
Sure.
you're talking to me.
Yeah, like I always do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, first of all, I want to know, how did you get involved in the miniature community?
My brother invited me to the local one of the local game stores for a game night. I'm like, great, Monopoly. No, Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it was, and I went and kept going with it. Really, it started out of me wanting to have a better relationship with my brother.
Okay.
Because I just, Alex got to a certain age that I could leave him more with babysitters and stuff like that, and wanted to kind of have some more time for me. So my miniature exploration started out of me wanting to have a better relationship with my brother. He probably doesn't even know that. He will now, but the gaming side of it was a little hard for me to wrap my head around, but I still played. Ended up going to a convention, Gen Con, and then realized...
That was your first convention?
That was my first convention, was Gen Con. It was, and I wasn't doing anything but just kind of checking everything out, and I was like, ooh, painting classes, because I bought a miniature and a few paints.
And then at what point did you start teaching?
I started teaching probably relatively early in accordance with my experience. I've always been a natural teacher. That's what I wanted to do originally, was be an art teacher.
Oh.
So, and I ended up going more into the marketing, graphic design side of things, still loving to teach. And so the teaching classes really kind of scratches that itch for me. I try to teach things that I know that will be enjoyable as well as helpful. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it works, but yeah, a lot of the classes are interactive for that reason.
All right, so I met you in 2015, and we probably didn't really become real good friends until 2016.
Yes.
When did you get your diagnosis?
My breast cancer diagnosis was in 2018, I believe was the year. I actually got my diagnosis 3 weeks into my first semester of grad school.
Yeah.
And with a lot of help and amazing support from all of them, I was able to finish grad school, which is ridiculous.
It's amazing.
But I was doing chemo every other week, or every third week. So many drugs, they do what they call a loading dose right at first, which is almost double what you end up getting. And I couldn't remember how a doorknob worked. So yeah, it was humbling. I mean, you learn a lot when I was like, I know how a doorknob works. But I sat there and stared at it for 5 minutes, and somebody's like, are you okay? Yeah. And then I was just able to reflexively open the door. But when I thought about it, it was so weird. I knew that it would take a physical toll. The mental toll was harder in those first couple of years. It was 18 months of the rotations like that. And then my last round of chemo was in November 2020. I graduated grad school in December. So that was a huge achievement. That was a big milestone for me. Then COVID hit, so it was harder for me to find a gig. But luckily I've been able to dive into some baking and things like that, just different kinds of, it's all creative therapy. Yeah. Is what it comes down to.
You're still painting.
I'm still painting.
You just won gold.
Yeah, I know. I did.
Reapercon.
I did. I took a gold from their open system at Reapercon, which was awesome.
Wasn't painting a little bit therapeutic in a way too?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because I can zone out and I can control what comes out with this one thing.
Right.
Because it's always been a big point of it for me, is finding what you can do that will, make you feel more productive. What are you going to do? And sometimes day to day, like today I'm going to accomplish this thing. If it's unpack this one box, if it's I'm going to get out of bed today,
right,
that's still an accomplishment. Learning that it's okay to be not okay.
Right.
And that's really hard when you go through as much, and I know you've been through a lot of your own things, and everybody's been through their own things, but learning that it's okay to be not okay.
Yeah. And
sharing that it's a not okay day.
You have good days and bad days.
Exactly. And that's been a big part of my healing process, is sharing all that information and getting people to get mammograms and things like that. I started sharing my Facebook stuff online almost right away. I mean, it sucks because being as young as I was never, nobody thought that I would have breast cancer. I was very young to be getting it, but I have family history, and I had just lost a bunch of weight, which threw off some chemicals in my body and all that. But going through and sharing the story so that if I had to go through it, then at least somebody would learn from it. You know, getting the word out. And I didn't realize that it affected so many people. Not just what I was able to do, but how many people who came to me and said, yeah, my wife got a breast cancer diagnosis. What do I do to help her? Just be there and be ready to help, because everybody wants something a little bit differently. And some people actually want advice, and some people really just want to vent to you. Or some people need you to come and give them a meal, you know, because that can be the hardest part, get exhausted. Mm-hmm. But so going through and sharing was a big piece of it for me, so that I felt like somebody else was getting benefit from it. Reapercon of 2019, they let me organize a side painting competition that I called it the Paint It Pink competition.
Paint It Pink, yes.
Yeah. And I still have the numbers, and I still have all of the entries, and it was just amazing. They had 700 artists enter, something like that.
That's amazing.
And then of Reaper's 700 artists, there were about 100 Paint It Pink entries.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. First time I got up in front of almost 2,000 people.
Right.
That was nerve-wracking, but I was able to give a little bit of a speech. And one of the big moments for me was that I was talking about, you know, how cancer affects everybody, and I had everybody stand who was actively dealing with cancer. Then I had them stay standing, and had more people stand that who have had it or are dealing with it with a family member, and then anybody who knows somebody stand up and, like, you know, give these supporters and caregivers a round of applause kind of thing. Then I look out and realize, like, everybody in the room is standing.
Yeah.
And it was a big, like, I've got goosebumps. It was a big moment.
It was a very solid moment.
It was. Yeah. And it was, you know, I think it brings everybody a little bit closer together to know they're not alone. And I still see and talk to a lot of the people. So it was great this past weekend to see some of them again too. So, yeah.
This is the piece that Michelle created to kind of symbolize her chemotherapy and her breast cancer recovery. I
had gotten the miniature originally from a friend of mine, and let him know I was like, I'm going to completely modify this, and it's not going to be anything close. And it was a Celestial Miniatures original piece, but I took out all of the techie mechanized bits because this represents my chemo, and then I have the swirl base that represents a breast tissue. And then kind of the tumor draining out of the bottom.
Oh, that's the tumor. Okay.
Yeah, the tumor drain. That was the.
Wow.
It was I was looking for a good way to display him, because that's just as important as, you know, the miniature itself. Some little, like, pustules and stuff like that are reminiscent of what's in the breast tissue, and he's kind of scraping it up to deal with it as he does.
Okay. So that brings us to how you got involved with Creature Caster to create the Maltique story. Did they approach you? Did you talk to them? I know that you've worked with Creature Caster in the past. You've done models that they really loved, and you've won Resin Beast competition.
Actually, I haven't won a Resin Beast.
Oh, you haven't won a Resin Beast? Okay. But they bought the piece. Was at the Resin Beast.
That was at the Resin Beast.
A win in itself.
Which absolutely was a win in itself. I had never had that happen before, where they were just like, this needs to come home with us. How much you want for it?
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. I went to Adepticon in my glorious bald self.
That's right.
Yeah. And I met Peter in the trade show booth, and I was giving him feedback on, you know, the dragon that I had painted, just like little tweaks you can make in the sculpt to make it easier for a painter to paint it. And he's like, do you have a minute? And then he hands me another model. I didn't realize it was the one that they just released.
Yeah.
And it was just these little things that, like, it would be really cool if it was this. And just giving him little bits of feedback. I think I talked to him for almost an hour, which is a lot for a trade show booth conversation.
Yeah.
And from there, we just kind of became friends. And they actually approached me with the idea of having a miniature made of my story, which I was completely blown away by the offer of it, and blown away again by the results.
For those who don't know, Michelle is, like, one of her favorite things to paint is monsters.
Yeah.
And that's Creature Caster's main thing.
Yeah.
what level did you have in the creative process? Did you give them the ideas for it?
I told them a little bit about myself being a little bit empathic and, really being able to talk and identify with people. And so that was the Auramancer kind of thing.
Yeah.
The palanquin kind of style was important for me because of the weakness and things, like having to be in a chair. I have to walk with a cane for now. Hopefully things will get better, but
what is palanquin?
Palanquin.
Palanquin, what is that?
That's the piece that she's on. She's being carried like a litter bearer kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of the style that it is in, is the idea of she's still controlling herself and is self-contained, but she has this assistance to help her on the battlefield kind of thing. And I picked the outfit. I actually own this outfit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was one of those,
yeah.
the one with the pencil skirt, not the big ruffles, though that might have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But
so other than the chair and the holder idea, is any of the other things you're...
Well, I wanted to incorporate the breast cancer ribbon.
Right.
And to have the brain tumor infection, which we haven't talked about yet. The kind of like pain and struggle of like the migraines and things that come with having brain tumor.
What happened after breast cancer?
So after that 18-month stint of breast cancer and radiation treatments and graduation, I had about 6 months or so of break. November 2020, because 2020 was a great year for everyone.
Right.
I got a diagnosis of brain tumor.
Mm-hmm.
I had several days of having a migraine, and then when I bent over to pick up something, and my boyfriend Steve was actually there, bent over and just kind of kept going. Luckily he caught me, so I didn't fall. That would have been ugly. But it was interesting because I literally picked something up on the way to go to the emergency room because of the headaches. And we found out once we got there that there was something larger going on, and they did a bunch of scans, and that's when I found out in November that I had 3 to 6 months left to live, which at the time of this filming was 5 months ago was my expiration date, right? So it's a relatively new set of meds that I'm setting the benchmark for. And I plan on setting that benchmark very high.
Yeah.
So
I hope so.
yeah, right. Well, it's a terminal diagnosis. It's metastatic. There's nothing they can do to operate because it sits right above my cerebellum, which controls a lot of things, including some memory, a lot of mobility, decision making. I almost feel like I have like a sundowners kind of thing sometimes, where the later in the day that I get, the harder it gets to make decisions, have conversations.
Like decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue. That's exactly what my therapist. I have a specialist that I see that is through the cancer center.
Yeah.
In how to deal with, having an expiration date besides giving it the middle finger.
Right.
Which I am, but
yes. I want to hear about what your vision is for the model to be able to, create awareness for.
It was a very big moment when they asked me, and they probably don't even realize it, but I have a legacy now.
Yes.
Something that will continue to fight on, and that in itself was just kind of cool. It was a very moving experience, especially with these guys who do so much work that I love. And yeah, they reached out to me, and Maltique in itself wanted it to be a unique piece that will still show the breast cancer side of things and chemotherapy in general, how it really messes, it's not just when you're cured of cancer, the way that we get there is so bad for our bodies. Mm-hmm. And so the needs of those people live on. Like there's a long-term process to going through even after chemo. Right. And whether or not you ended up with whether or not you ended up with the brain tumor, I was still having issues. They call it chemo brain. And it sounds very cute. Oh, chemo brain. No, not really. You can look it up. It is not a fun thing to go through. And it was really, really difficult trying to find ways to work around the missing patches in my brain. So.
Maltique is being sold by CreatureCast. 50% of that will go toward the BC, British Columbia Breast Cancer Research Center.
Absolutely.
And that alone is going to,
absolutely
be a really good cause.
And I had somebody ask me if it bothered me that it was going to Canadian breast cancer research. And I kind of looked at them like they were a little crazy because breast cancer research is breast cancer research.
Right. Who cares who finds out about what?
Exactly. And it's the community, and there's been so many advances. And it's an international team of amazing folks that have made it so that breast cancer is 65% survivable now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more frequent, but it's more survivable. So, as long as early detection, mammograms,
Yes,
mammograms.
That's the number one thing we want to get across is get your mammograms, get checked, and do it every month.
Yeah, check, just to make sure that everything is okay. And if you find something that's not okay, don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
And there is a small percentage of men who get it, so if you think that you have a little something to look at, go get it looked at.
This is what we have doctors for. So.
Yeah.
I know. I'm working with Creaturecaster as a model company, releasing a model to deal with my story of having gone through breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And so, do you guys mind if we record just your first reactions to the miniature?
Okay, sure.
Okay. So her name is Maltique.
What's her name?
Maltique.
Oh gosh, it's a spider lady.
Oh, that's real freaking cool.
So.
Yeah, no, that's
beautiful. I love the like corset and dress, but still like the techno vibe around it. That's really cool. I like the marriage of those things.
I have that outfit.
It's terrifying and beautiful.
Yes.
It's two of my favorite things.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.